Hey, welcome guys to another edition of the Cryptid Consortium. I'm here with my brother Nick, and it is 3/19/25. We got a great show for you tonight. It's just Nick and myself. Gary's not available, so we're going to go ahead and take it. Nick, what are we working with tonight, man?
Tonight we have the Wendigo, and
Beautiful.
there's different forms of a Wendigo, and we'll talk about them all. Some people say it's just purely spiritual.
Yep.
Some people say it's just purely physical. Some say both. And there's different ways you actually a human becomes a Wendigo. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Now, this is basically what were you telling me? What was it goes how far back?
40,000 years.
I mean, that's a long time ago.
That's an
And
extremely long time ago.
and the Wendigo was first officially reported in 1636 in Quebec, Canada, by a Jesuit missionary, Paul Lejeune. He
Okay.
was writing a report to back to France to report about things that were happening in his
Right.
town that he lived in Quebec, and people were, going. They used to call it going Wendigo.
Yeah.
So I mean that was the report that he wrote. Really, raised eyebrows back in France, and
Right.
they actually sent him about five other missionaries for help, to help him out over there, and also to check him out to see if he was, going wackadoodle. Because I mean,
Right. Right.
we're talking 1636, and he was embedded with the indigenous people over there, indigenous
Right.
people rather, and that's basically the Algonquin Indians, the Cree, in
Yep.
that area,
Right
uh,
up near here.
First Nations people.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean it was part of their culture and everything. Here, you might as well throw a few things in while
Yeah,
I'm going to bring up
see,
the first picture.
yes, there's a couple descriptions of this thing, guys. The first being that of like a Sasquatch with big canine teeth. And then the other description would be an emaciated, skeletal looking type of creature with the flesh actually falling off and with a rank odor. And some tribes talk about it with deer antlers. Some describe it without the antlers. But like Nick was saying a minute ago, you get they consider it a curse. You turn Wendigo, like Nick said, and it's considered a curse. Now I know up here it's a taboo thing with tribes up here. I'm up here in the northeast U.S. Right on the Canadian border, and it's taboo. You can't get them to talk about it. You say Wendigo, and they won't talk about it. It's just how it is.
Now the
Um,
Wendigo, not only I'm still trying to get this to
yeah.
come up here, but the Wendigo is also in the northern section of America, and it's
Yeah.
all over Canada actually.
Yep.
And like you said, it has a foul, rank odor, and it
Yes.
either has the face of sometimes a deer or maybe an elk
You're right.
skeletonized head.
Yep.
Sometimes it has the skin pulled up really taut over its bones, and sometimes it's portrayed as having actually fleshy muscle, but that's due to the fact that it's eaten a lot. And
Right.
what does it eat? It prefers humans.
Humans,
And
cannibalistic.
and a
Yep.
subculture of that, it actually prefers children. So
Oh,
it
see, I didn't find that. That's interesting.
used
I
to,
mean, it's pretty twisted, but
yeah.
it's interesting. I didn't know that.
I'm having a
So it prefers them, you said?
It prefers children. That's what I've gotten here. Um, Darn. This is just I wish Gary was here, but
I'm
Gary's
gonna
having
read a little. I'm gonna read something, Nick, about this. Okay.
go ahead.
I'll read this to you. This is a story from hundreds of years ago, from the indigenous people up in up in Canada.
Mm,
Um, This is an adaptation of the original myth of the Wendigo, okay? The storm lasted so long that they thought they would starve. Finally, when the wind and swirling snow had died away to just a memory, the father was a brave warrior, who was a brave warrior, ventured outside. The next storm was already on the horizon, but if food was not found soon, the family would starve. Keeping his knife and spear close, he ventured out upon the most frequently used game trail, watching intently for some sign in the newly fallen snow of animal footprints or movement of any kind. The forest lay deep and oddly silent under its gleaming coating of ice and snow. Every creature of sense lay deep within its burrow and slept. Still the warrior hunted, knowing how desperate his family had become. As he moved through the eerie stillness, broke only by soft caress of the wind, he heard a strange hissing noise. It came from everywhere and nowhere at one time. The warrior stopped, his heart pounding. That was when he saw the black-soaked footprints appearing on a path in front of him. He gripped his knife tightly, knowing that somewhere watching him was the Wendigo. He had learned about the Wendigo at his father's knee, whatever that means. Okay, from his father. It was a large creature as tall as a tree with a lipless mouth and jagged teeth. Its breath was a strange hiss, its footprints full of blood, and it ate any man, woman, or child who ventured into its territory. And those who were the lucky ones. Okay, I guess they consider it, yeah, Nick, they consider it lucky to be dispatched and not have the curse turn on them, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
I'm having technical difficulties here. I cannot it will not bring it up. I can't share.
okay.
For
All
some odd
right.
reason I can't share it. I can't
Right.
share my screen. I don't
Okay.
know why. This is
Yeah, and I'm
but if you
totally
picture a, a possibly an 8, 9 foot creature, they say sometimes even larger, with
15 feet. I got
yeah, with the skull of an elk on top of it with the horns, uh, and it had similar to like goat's feet,
yep.
uh, and it has super strength, super speed, and super stamina. The only way to kill this thing that I found anyway, and I'll tell you the truth, I took it to heart because when I was leading teams out into the forest area looking for dogman footprints and claw marks and looking at other cryptids that we went out to look for,
Mhm.
we also carried, every one of us, all 7 of us, we carried miniature blowtorches.
Okay.
Because I figure anything you got is going to be afraid of fire, so
Fire.
it
Yep.
can't hurt, with
Right.
another three
Yeah.
pounds. But if 7 of us had blowtorches, we had these modified by one of the guys, because what these torches are, anybody could actually buy them at Home Depot or Lowe's.
Yep.
People buy these to kill weeds with.
Yeah. Weed burners, they call them.
Yeah, you just attach a little propane tank to it,
Yep.
like you would a cooker. And
Right.
I'll tell you, my buddy modified it, and we actually got a good 3 inch round stream to go out 15 feet. So
Right.
that wasn't
Wow.
too
That's
bad. I mean, originally it
15
was
feet.
a wider stream, but it would only go 3 feet.
Right.
So this thing, we got a skinny stream, but it went out, and
We went out there. Yeah.
uh, according to legend and lore, the one way to kill it is to
Fire.
is to burn it.
Burn it.
So so we used to start carrying those things, and that was cute. I still have 2 of them in my garage. If I ever get a team up here in North Carolina, that'd be great.
Oh, hopefully soon. All right.
Uh,
You want me to finish reading this story?
oh, you're not finished?
No, no, no. There's a
Oh, go
little bit
ahead.
more to it.
Sorry, go
Okay.
ahead.
So watching him was a Wendigo. So he had learned about the Wendigo at his father's knee. It was a large creature as tall as a tree with a lipless mouth and jagged teeth. Its breath was a strange hiss, its footprints full of blood, and it ate any man, woman, or child who ventured into its territory, and those were the lucky ones. Sometimes the Wendigo chose to possess a person instead. That's got to be mildly unpleasant, I'd imagine. And then the luckless individual became a Wendigo himself. So they actually take on this curse. Hunting down those he had once loved and feasting upon their flesh, the warrior knew he would have just one chance to prevail over the Wendigo. After that, he would die, or the thought was too terrible to comprehend. Slowly, he backed away from the bloody footprints, listening to the hissing sound. Was it stronger in one direction? Question mark. He gripped spear in one hand, knife in the other. Then the snowbank to his left erupted as a creature as tall as a tree leapt out at him. He dove to one side, rolling into the snow so that his clothing was covered and he became hard to see in the gray twilight of the approaching storm. The Wendigo whirled its massive frame and the warrior threw the spear. It stuck in the creature's chest, but the Wendigo just shook it off. Yep, gotta burn it. The warrior crouched behind a small tree as the creature searched the torn up snow for a trace of him. Perhaps one more chance. The Wendigo loomed over his hiding place, its sharp eyes seeing the outline of him against the tree. It bent down, long arms reaching. The warrior leapt forward as if to embrace the creature and thrust his knife into the fathomless black eye. The Wendigo howled in pain as the blade of the knife sliced its brain cavity. Sorry. It tried to pull him off its chest, but the warrior clung to the creature, stabbing it again and again in the eyes and the head. The Wendigo collapsed to the ground, bleeding profusely, almost crushing the warrior beneath its bulk. He pulled himself loose and stared at the creature, which blended in with the white surroundings so well that he would not have seen it, save for blood pouring from its eyes and ears and scalp. The outline of the creature grew misty and it vanished, leaving only a pool of blood to indicate where it had fallen. So yeah, he didn't burn it, so it kept on. It hung in there.
Well, just like the Dog Man and Sasquatch,
Yep.
I gather that if you put if you have to defend yourself and you put a bullet through their eye,
Yeah.
uh, it's going to go into their brain. So that's
Yes.
exactly what he did with the knife.
Yep.
Now, way back when in the 1800s, this going Wendigo thing was really getting a lot of people scared. And one of the ways people, well, by going Wendigo means becoming cannibal,
Yes.
because it likes to eat humans. And I was looking through the little app that I have, and I came across from the St. Paul Globe of Minnesota,
Okay.
1897, a
Wow.
Native American woman. Now, this is a report that they took here. A Native American woman in Burns River Reserve of Manitoba. She contracted typhoid fever.
Okay.
Her husband, they didn't have any kids, but her husband started seeing her talking funny and acting funny. And because of the Wendigo scare, and it was a very cold winter, by the way, but because of the Wendigo scare, he grabbed her and he snapped her neck and he killed her.
Yeah.
And I mean, because he was so afraid,
So
that she
scary.
would, eat him. But basically,
Mm-hmm.
well, he was arrested for murder.
He
But there's
was, huh?
also other cases of people, going Wendigo that are not, mistaken diagnoses. And
Right.
it was just a mistake there. It doesn't say what happened to him, but now if
Wow.
there is one you may have heard of, a
Okay.
Native American back in 1879 in Alberta, Canada. His name was Swift Runner.
You okay? Yep.
It was a really super cold winter, and he had his wife, his mother, and I think six children. They all lived in the cabin, and it was a very cold winter. And he went Wendigo, and
Oh,
he killed them, and he started eating them. And he had one child left, and he killed him and ate him too,
yeah.
last, because
Last.
I guess he didn't want to have any witnesses. Now he
Right.
was well liked in the town of Alberta, but when the winter was over and he went into town, they were like, "Well, what's going on? Usually you come into town with some of the kids, your wife, your mother, you know." Nope, Swift Runner was there alone. So what the mounted police did is they paid him a visit, and he tells them he doesn't know what overcame him, but they tried him and they hung him.
Hung him. Yeah.
Yeah, they put him to death.
Yeah.
Because they didn't want to take a chance of him going to Wendigo on anybody else.
Than anyone else. Yeah, I
Course,
have heard that story.
yeah, that was mass murder. 8 people. Oh
Yeah.
my God.
Especially being your wife and kids,
Yeah,
you
and your
know,
mother, and your
and your
mother.
mother, and your mother. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Yep.
So, like I said, a lot of this stuff, and when I tell people about, we do field investigation, which is physically going out there in the forest and in the cities, by the way, people.
Yeah.
And also, the other people, the other side of the coin is the researchers. Now, I consider myself a 14 researcher. I
Hmm.
go to small bookstores, small libraries, large libraries, doesn't matter, in the different states. So I use books. I just don't use the internet because, you know, you never know what people can make up and just put on there.
Yeah.
And in this
Yeah.
day and age with AI, I'm not going to trust it too much. Some of the stuff I found by going to libraries and looking through their microfilm and microfiche, it was just amazing. Like what I was telling you about the one picture I got in front of a barn back in the early 1800s. They've got this large bird. It has
I've
like,
seen that.
yeah, it's 40-foot wingspan from tip to
Yeah.
tip, and they've
Yep.
got like 20 guys in front of it. They
Yep.
tacked it up to the barn and they're all posing, in front of
Yep.
it. Now that was from a newspaper clipping, and that
Okay.
was in microfilm that they had. Uh, so this is the reason why to become a really nice and a good researcher, a 14 researcher, you have to take in all the different aspects of research. And
That's the problem nowadays. People stick with the internet too much.
oh yeah. And
You
like I
know.
said, I have that app in the St. Paul's Globe newspaper. That one did publish that. It had some other things in there where people were afraid. They were out in the woods and they thought they were being chased, but they didn't see what they were being chased by. It could have been a bear, could have been wolf, could have been coyote. But in this instance, uh, back in where is it, in Manitoba, the lady got typhoid, and it was a misdiagnosis, and her husband just killed her instead of getting her to a doctor and trying to
Yeah.
get some help.
Right.
Uh,
Now, one question I had, and I couldn't find any answer to it. You know how there's different descriptions of this thing. You
yeah,
know, that of a Sasquatch looking type creature with long canine teeth.
right.
And then the other one we were talking about, the skeleton with the antlers and such. Now, how did you? Okay, so when you get attacked by a Wendigo, you go Wendigo, okay, which is like you said, is cannibalism.
Yeah,
How do you actually take on the description? What they're talking about as a description? Do you actually turn into the creature itself, or do you stay in human form?
it seems like from what I researched that there's two different ways to become a Wendigo.
Okay,
Um, Now, a human becomes a Wendigo when there's a spirit that corrupts them. And
right,
the reason it corrupts them is because the spirit, in passing by them, now this is from lore, you know, they become greedy or they become weakened by extreme conditions, such as hunger or cold.
all right,
So, the spirit will overtake them and then therefore the cannibalism. And then they go Wendigo. Or when they're possessed by uh, just a prowling spirit in a moment of weakness. Once again, the greed or any sort of a you know thievery, things like that.
right,
Cheating people out of things. And if they're in the right place at the right time, at the wrong time, I should say, the spirit overtakes them, and then that's it, and their
yeah,
body starts to transform. So
okay,
that's basically what I got, and where I got the source I got that from was a regular paper book, and the individual was a half Cree, half French, French
okay,
European individual, and he got this from his grandfather, who was on the Cree side,
Right.
His grandfather saw a guy, start going Wendigo. He used to cheat. He was a First Nations person, Indian, and he
Yep.
would cheat people, all the time. Uh, the whites and his fellow Indians.
Native. Yep.
And one day he just started changing.
Hmm.
He had a oh God, what do you call those things back then? A trading post.
Trading posts.
Yeah,
Yep.
and he used to cheat people all the time. And
Yep.
little by little, he trading post was closed down, and little by little, people noticed that he was changing. His teeth were elongating. His skin was becoming alabaster gray in color.
No.
His face was becoming skull-like, and some of them said that they thought he started to grow protrusions from his head.
Right.
They wound up uh, a couple of the native I want to say Native Americans, First Nations people, because this was
First
in
Nation.
Canada. What
Yep.
they did was they went and they secured the doors, and they set his trading post on fire while he was inside.
And did away with them.
That was the end of him because children became missing,
Ah.
during this
Okay.
time. So it took them 2 weeks to figure it out, but after they figured it out, they acted fast,
Sure.
and
Sure.
they burnt them. So I guess that's where the old idea of you can burn them, or like that native First Nations person, he stabbed him in the eye and got him in the
Eyeball.
brain.
Yep.
But yeah, that tall, emaciated body,
Hey,
with the
imagine seeing something like that.
what's that,
Be
Jay?
pretty. Imagine seeing something like that.
Oh man, imagine being out in a forest and you see this. I mean, I was in Canada, and I didn't have a team with me or anything. I was just up there with four of the guys, and we were just checking an area out that we were going to go up for training. This is years back, and
Yeah.
we heard rumbling sounds and all kinds of deep throaty sounds, and the trees were shaking as they were coming towards us. And out of the trees comes a 1,500-pound moose, and I mean, the rack must have put it at 8 feet at the top of the rack, and its head must have been about a good 6 feet, maybe 7 feet off the ground. This thing was 1,500 pounds. It was
Yeah, they're
huge.
massive. Massive.
And what we did was everybody went behind a tree because they're aggressive.
They're
But
extremely
just
aggressive.
having that come out and look at you, it's like, holy crow, look at this thing.
It puts things into perspective real quick when you see a moose. People
Yeah.
have no idea how big, how large they are.
And they
It's just
truly are aggressive. They truly
mean.
are aggressive. And
Yep.
yeah, we were ready. We had bear spray. We were all ready to, shoot it out there in case it started walking towards us. Because
Yeah.
like I said, we went behind trees just to hide, and it was
Sure.
around. But and as massive as a moose is, you know,
Hmm.
that 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 story you told me about the Sasquatch that broke a moose in half, broke
Yeah.
spine. I mean, how
Yep.
big could that Squatch have been?
Yep. It was he describes that at about 9 feet, 9, 10 feet. And
Uh,
it grabbed it by and the way it broke its neck, Nick, was kind of weird too. I know I'm getting off topic, but uh, it spun. It went to a front headlock position, okay, and it didn't turn. It didn't snap its neck by turning it. It snapped its neck by pulling up,
Pulling up.
and
Yeah.
yep, and then you could see the. He said you could see the spine and the moose kind of go like that when he snapped the neck. And
Man.
the thing immediately opened the moose up and started feeding on it. Didn't pay him any mind at all.
And the reason why I say this next is because we do have people that go out there and do field research in forest areas.
Yeah.
And look at, for instance, a gorilla. It's like 11 to 12 times stronger than a man. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
mean just any old guy. I mean a guy that's actually in shape and is strong. It's like 12 times stronger than a man.
Yeah.
I've been to a zoo where a gorilla was sitting there, and it was just like an accordion pushing a large truck tire like this. I guess he was
Jeez.
I guess he was working pecs that day, But just look at the gorilla and see
Yeah.
how much power that has. Now you're
Yeah.
talking about a 9-foot Sasquatch,
Oh,
probably weighing in at about 2,000 pounds.
yep.
People say, well, how could they do such a thing? How could they knock trees out and take trees out of the ground? Well, when you're 9 foot tall and you weigh 2,000 pounds and you're stronger than, like, I would say 30 men,
At least, yeah.
you're talking about a lot of power there.
A ton of power.
Yeah. And,
Ton of power.
once again, not to get off topic of the Wendigo, but up in Canada, you've probably seen it on television. It's been on television a few times about where a logging crew using machinery and everything in
Hmm.
this area in Canada near a river, and out from the forest comes a tree, and it was, God, it was about 24 inches in circumference, and it
Yep.
was about 12 feet long, and it was sailing from the forest out towards where the machinery
Towards
was.
them. Yeah.
Uh, and what they tried to do on this program was replicate with a machine that could possibly throw something that size. They couldn't do it.
Couldn't do it.
This
Yeah.
thing, this thing was Jay. This thing was literally about 20 feet off the ground, high when it was sailing through the air.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, come on. People say, "Oh no, there's no such thing as cryptids, no such thing as Sasquatch."
Yeah.
Well, what through that then?
Went through the
We're,
friggin' the tree,
we're
you know?
talking about a friggin' tree here that traveled maybe 50 feet, through
Yep.
the air. Come on.
Yep.
You know,
And they say this Wendigo is extremely strong.
yes, it has super strength, super speed, and a lot of stamina.
A lot of stamina.
So it's
Yep.
not something you want to come up against in the forest area, believe me. And
Yep.
luckily for a lot of people in the United States anyway, it's usually up in Minnesota, Michigan, up towards that way in
Yeah.
northern United States, and it's into Canada. You
Yep.
know, so it's, and basically it's mid Canada over to the western, but you've had some reports on the eastern coast of Canada also of
Canada. Yeah.
Wendigo. It's actually something though. This thing, I
Yeah.
wish I could put pictures of it up, and
Disturbing,
ah,
you know? It's a
folks, if you
disturbing.
could just look it up, Windigo, Wendigo.
Yeah.
Uh, I wish Gary was with us; he'd be able to
I
throw it
do
up.
too.
I don't know whether it's my new computer or the program we're using, but I was able to at one time to be able to put up pictures, but it's just not working today.
Yeah.
I just don't understand it.
I'm not a technician either, Nick, so don't feel bad.
I'm trying to do the share, and ah, let me try it one more time.
Okay.
Nope, it just brings me up a silly window, and this is not working.
Yeah. And I would have liked to have seen some of the pictures too, but
Oh, wait a minute.
there
Wait a minute. Wait one
you
minute.
go, Nick.
Let me know if
There
this
you
comes
go.
up. Oh, here we go.
Yep.
Oh, this is just great. I wonder if it'll come up.
Yep. It's working.
Okay, there we go.
There you go. So there we have it, people. There's one of the descriptions. You can see the elk-like antlers. It's very lean and like emaciated looking. Um, that's it. Yeah, that's the
Hasn't
description.
eaten
One
yet.
of that, right.
Now, let me see. Let me see if I get another one here. Here's the one after it's eaten a lot. Darn, it's kind of small. I hope you folks can see it.
I can see it.
Ah, it's little.
Yeah, but you can. Oh,
Oh,
there
here
you
we
go.
go. Here we
Okay,
go.
so that's got more like the elk
Yeah,
look.
yeah.
But like
And
you said, it's eaten.
yeah, and it has eaten at this point, and you can see the ribs over there. It hasn't eaten enough, but it's a little bulky there.
Yeah.
See if I can get out of this and put my last one up. And here's generally the one most people think of. And here they have a national park where they've got little warning signs throughout the park about, watch out for Sasquatch, watch out for Wendigo.
Yeah.
If you see one, you're already dead.
Yeah.
Forget about
Pretty
it.
much.
Yeah. So this is basically the general way that people look, for a Wendigo. The
Yeah.
the hooves, the skinny,
Yep.
the skinny ribs here and
Rib cage.
everything.
And then the antlers. Antlers with the skull.
But can you imagine? I mean, like the way I do it when I'm with a team and I'm in the forest is we'll stop every 200-300 feet, and I have and what you want at this point is wide angle binoculars, and we'll look as best we can. Two guys will look around and see if you can see anything, and we're always looking up. I always tell people look up, but of course
Absolutely.
there is an importance to looking down too. Snakes, and stuff like that. But anyway, we're looking around. But can you imagine you're looking around with your binoculars and like 150 through 200 feet away, you see this thing.
See this. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
like form up, take out your flamethrowers, and let's get ready.
Seeing a dog man or a Sasquatch is disturbing enough.
Yeah, and then you got to see
Imagine
this thing.
then you got to see that thing. How pleasant.
It's just definitely not a pleasant thing. Well, I guess I figured it out. I don't know
Yeah,
how,
that's good.
but
That's a good
at
thing.
least we got to show the audience what it does look like.
Yeah,
Thank God for
exactly.
that. And there's my screen with my little bird. I guess you can still see it, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we're gonna do stop share, and we're back to normal again.
There you go. Good job, Nick.
Yeah, you
Well, that's
living up
about
near
all.
the Canadian border and everything.
Yeah.
You ever get anything from the Algonquin Indians up there? And
They will, like I said, they will not. They won't talk about it. It's a taboo kind of thing.
oh yeah, because they believe that just like with the Skinwalker, they
And the
believe that if
Gugway,
you talk about it, it's
it'll
bad
bring
luck
it
and it'll
on.
come after them.
Yeah. Yeah. So they don't really mention it, even amongst each other. You know what I mean? Like with some topics, like with the Gugway or something like that. They'll talk about it amongst each other, but they won't talk about it with outsiders. Whereas the Wendigo, they won't even talk about it with each other,
They don't
let
mention the
alone
name.
right. You don't even bring the name. Don't even bring it up. So
Well, like I've
yeah,
mentioned in previous broadcasts, whether on our shows or when I've been interviewed, I
yeah,
have I guess you would call him a cousin-in-law that is a First Nations person that my
okay,
direct blood cousin on my mother's side married, met him in college, and she lives there in Canada. And I would talk with him, into the early morning. We'd be
yeah,
drinking coffee that I bring from down here, Black Rifle coffee, by the way, and
of
he
course,
loves that stuff. So it's an easy Christmas gift. You know,
yeah,
when I send
absolutely,
that to him, he's like, "I know what it is. I know what it is."
yeah,
And you know, he would tell me about certain things over there, and he goes, "Yeah, they don't say the word Skinwalker, and they don't say the word Wendigo." You know,
yeah.
he'll he goes, I'll talk a little bit about it with you, but he goes, I really can't ask anybody. And
Right, right.
they're taught right from childhood, just forget
Not
about
to
it.
bring it up, forget about it. Yep, yep. Well, I think
Yeah.
that's all I got on it, Nick. How about yourself?
I'm just looking through the notes here. I just thought it was pretty funny from 1636
Yeah,
that
that's a long time.
Jesuit priest in Quebec, wrote a two-page paper on the Wendigo appearing there, and
Yeah,
people were misdiagnosing, going Wendigo. But he did say that, the cannibalism in his area, it was rife with cannibalism because the winters were, well, the winters where you
so
are, they were
brutal.
super bitter cold. I mean, up in Canada,
Yep.
um, God, I think the furthest I've been is 300 miles straight up into Canada on the eastern
Okay.
coast in the
Yeah.
wintertime. There's practically nothing there. It's just so
No.
cold. It's so
Yeah.
cold that you got to get a heater for your oil. A
Yeah.
heater instead of a regular dipstick. you attach a battery to it, and you put it in there so that overnight, it'll keep your oil warm.
Yeah.
You're not going to start anything. So
Nope.
I can't see Canada going with electric cars in the future because the cold just kills the electric cars.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you're not going anyplace. Especially at least with gasoline and diesel, you can treat it. You can
Right. Right.
gas the diesel.
With the treatment, yeah.
Yeah.
Can't with fuel oil. No, that's the problem.
So what do you think this is? Is it a form of Sasquatch or just
If I
just something
if I
totally
hadn't
different?
gotten the other if we hadn't gotten the other description, I think it's its own entity.
Yeah.
Whether it's spiritual or physical, it's its own entity in a separate thing. Yeah, I
Its
don't
own
think it's a type
category
of
by
telephone.
itself. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
I agree with you. I think it's its own entity in its own category, totally. I don't
Yeah.
think it's a Sasquatch.
No.
I don't think it's a Gugway the
Nope.
face eater, where
Yeah.
it rips people's faces off and eats their brains and stuff. By the way, that's what it does. It rips their heads off and gets to the brain.
Yeah.
Um, no, this thing is totally, totally different.
Totally different. Yeah. This is by far the worst. As far when I say worst, I mean nasty. Nastiest cryptid we've done yet.
It really is. I mean, here I thought the Mongolian death worm was pretty bad, but you know,
I think this is a little worse.
doesn't
Yeah.
doesn't hang out in the forest and go after children and everything.
Right.
You stay out of
Right.
its land, it doesn't do anything.
Right.
And if it swallows a horse, it'll eat that.
Yeah. It'll eat anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you do is you got to put things in front of you when you're in the sand and hope that goes down first before you do. With the Mongolian death worm.
Yeah.
In this case, in this case, the Wendigo kind of bypasses a horse and goes after the human.
Human. Yeah.
And if you're a little kid, well, you know, it's going to go after you first. Um, a couple of reports I had in the Globe newspaper, it was talking about missing children from the First Nation peoples, tribal areas. They had
Right.
a very high missing persons rate back in, where's the date on that? 1882. They had a very high rate of children going missing. Now,
Was this during the winter time?
yeah, it was during the winter time. Now, there was nothing else in the paper. I went into it for that whole winter, and I even
Yeah.
went back to see if they had any, like murderers or anything at the time, and nobody
Right.
in particular was caught. And besides, they have to go on tribal land, to
Right.
where these people live and everything,
Right.
in order to take the children, but the children went missing. So
Yeah.
that's
Something was going on.
it's like the missing 911 thing, and
Yeah.
now people are going to start blaming it on Wendigos.
Right.
Well, like I've said, people either when they do go missing, they either want to go missing. Number one, number two, they've been trafficked, human trafficking.
Yeah.
That's a big thing these days.
Huge.
So they either want to go missing, human trafficking, a murderer got them, somebody got them,
Yeah.
you know, and the sketchy one, number four, is well, they fell down down some cavernous
Yeah.
hole. They went into the water and drowned or were taken under. But cadaver dogs are really, really, really high tech these days. The way they
Yeah.
train them, and they're able to sniff you if you're even underwater. So that kind of
That's
throws it
impressive.
out. And then number five would be a cryptid.
Very cryptid.
People
Yeah.
being kidnapped by a Sasquatch, a dogman, well, not kidnapped by a dogman, I guess eaten.
Eaten.
If Wendigo did come across them, well, then eaten again. Now, doesn't say much in anything that I've read if it leaves bones or anything.
I wouldn't. If I was a Wendigo, I guess I'd probably want that bone marrow.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
you
right.
know,
You're chewing on a bone like like
chicken
a
wing, you know?
piece of a steak bone.
Yeah,
It's got a lot of flavor in there. It's got the blood in.
right. Exactly.
There have been reports that I've seen over the years uh, that in certain caves there were bones, a lot of bones, scattered bones, and it wasn't just deer bones. It was some of them were human bones. So
Yeah.
that's a possibility with a dog man or a Sasquatch for that matter.
Watch, yeah.
It doesn't say that a Wendigo actually lives in caves or burrows or anything like that. Uh, they don't necessarily hang out by water sources, so I guess they're a different level on their own, a
Yeah,
whole different
it's a
level.
separate entity. It's separate altogether. I have no doubt about
Yeah.
that.
Well, I wish Gary was here so he could have added, for the
Me
final
too.
final 15 minutes, but he's dealing with that wind and it's over 60 miles an hour.
Yeah. We'll have him back next week, though.
Yeah, totally knocked out his electric and internet and everything. He's got to get one of those gas generators. The gas pipes that go under the ground, they're about 8 feet underground. Generac, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess it's cold where he is in
It,
Oklahoma. So,
can it gets cold. Yeah.
yeah, I just hope he has a fireplace or something. I know if he
Me
does, he
too.
has plenty of wood.
Yeah.
If that knocked out his electricity and his heating and everything, that's not going to be too good.
No.
Okay,
No.
Jay, that's about it for me.
Yeah, Nick. That's same here. We'll be back next weekend, people. Thanks for joining us again this week. We'll be back next week with another good cryptid for you.
Thank you,
Everyone
and be
have a good
careful out
night.
there. Good
Yep,
night,
be
everybody.
careful. Don't forget to look up.
That's it.
All right, Nick. Have a good night, man.
Bye bye.